before we start lesson 8, there are a few things you need to know so that you can complete lesson 8. And I have posted 5 different sets of notes on Instagram. They're all together. So make sure you look at Instagram for notes. But let's get started. So, this is called a fraction. This is a numerator and this is a denominator. If I want to add fractions together, they need to have the same denominator. So since these both have the same denominator, I can easily add them. 3 plus 2 is 5. You leave the denominator the same, so your answer is 5/6. If I wanted to subtract, it's the same thing. They need to have the same denominator. 3 minus 2 is 1. The denominator stays the same, so we have an answer of 6. Since they have the same denominator, we can simply add and subtract them. Now, if they have different denominators, like these do, different denominators, we need to find the multiples of these two numbers. So multiples are going to be in the notes on Instagram, and multiples go on forever. Think of a multiplication table. So I'm going to start with 3. The multiples of 3 are, sorry, the lighting is bad, 3, 6, 9, 12. The multiples of 6 are 6, 12, 18. So that's as far as I'm going to go, but multiples go on forever. They never ever stop. So looking at the 3 and the 6, I have a 6 in common. That's called my, this is a 6. That's called my least common multiple. So I want to use my least common multiple to find my denominator. So since this is already a 6, I'm going to leave that as 6. This was already a 6, so I'm going to leave the fraction alone. This, I can multiply this by 2 to get to 6. Whatever I do to the bottom, I need to do the exact same thing to the top. I multiplied this by 2. I need to multiply this by 2. 2 times 2 is 4. So now they both have the same denominator. Okay? Now I'm going to add them since they have the same denominator. 3 plus 4 is 7. My denominator stays the same. So I have 7/6. Now this fraction right here is called an improper fraction because this number is larger than this number. So when I have an improper fraction, I am going to divide. So I'm going to erase my work up here. Improper fraction, I need to divide. 6 can divide into 7 one time. 1 times 6 is 6. 7 minus 6 is 1. So I have a remainder of 1. So my answer to 3/6 plus 4/6 would be 1. And my remainder I take as my numerator, and my denominator stays the same, 1 and 1/6. So I had, my original problem was 3/6 plus 2/3. These were not the same denominator, so I found a common multiple by finding the multiples of each. The multiples were 6. This was already a 6, so it stayed the same. This I needed to multiply by 2 to get to 6. Whatever I do to the bottom, I do to the top. So I needed to multiply this by 2 to get to 4. 3 plus 4 is 7. My denominators stay the same for 6. This is called an improper fraction. I need to turn it into a proper fraction. 6 can divide into 7 one time. 1 times 6 is 6. 7 minus 6 is 1. Remainder 1, so I got my answer of 1. This is my numerator, 1. My denominator stays the same, 6. Now we're going to do another example. So we have 2/5 plus 3/15. Okay? So these are not the same denominator. They are different denominators. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the multiples of both of these. Multiples are like multiplication table. Think of going on forever. So I'm going to put a 5 and a 15. The multiples of 5, it's like skip counting. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. And I'm going to stop there. The multiples of 15 are 15, 30, 45, 60. And I'm going to stop there. So what I have in common is I have 15 in common. So since I have 15 in common, I'm going to leave this fraction alone, and I need to change this fraction. So 5 times what gets me to 15? 3. Whatever I do to the bottom, I need to do the exact same thing to the top. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 3 equals 15, okay? So I have 2/5 is now 6/15, and this stays the same because this already had the common denominator of 15, and now I can easily add them as 9/15. So our answer was 9/15, and this can be simplified, meaning there's a fraction that's equal to 9/15 that is smaller numbers. So the way we simplify is we take both of our numbers and we find the factors of 9 and 15. Factors are what two numbers multiply together to get to these two numbers. So 9. 1 times 9 equals 9, and 3 times 3 equals 9. There's nothing else that I can multiply together to get to 9. 15, I have 1 times 15 equals 15. 3 times 5 equals 15. Those are the factors of 9 and 15. So as you can see, we have 3 in common. So that means this can be divided by 3. 3 divides into 9 3 times. 3 divides into 15 5 times. So the equivalent fraction of 9/15 is 3/5. And this is the simplified form. This means it's in simplest form.